I like to call it the citizen journalism project more than the newspaper project. The idea was to teach kids how to be journalists, how to be inquisitive, and how to be good researchers as much as they are writers. I like the idea of starting with a big project at the very end and then working our way backwards, knowing exactly where we wanted to be, and then asking ourselves, okay, well, how do we get there? I think the first thing that we wanted to work on was our communication skills with the world around us. So how can we visit other people? How can we visit classrooms and even places in our own city and figure out ways to tell the stories that deserve to be told, I guess. I wanted the kids to have something that they could really sink their teeth into. They know exactly what is expected of them, and every single week they're excited to do something new. The kids started to identify stories that I wasn't even asking them to look for. They were seeing stories in the hallways, stories in the classroom, stories at their houses. So overall, it was the journey of becoming a curious student, and that was sort of the end game, I think. Number one, I think every school deserves a newspaper. And that for me was motivation enough. When I saw that there was an empty space there, it was like, I felt really excited to fill that space. So having a newspaper for me was a no-brainer, and I was just excited to jump on that project. But the second part is that knowing that the project was a very, very sort of long-term thing, it allowed me to build my lesson plans on a weekly basis. So it actually helped me design my entire semester around one sort of singular idea. And with that one project came endless amounts of lessons. It kind of made my semester a little bit easier and a little bit more fun. A newspaper is not just one thing, it's a culmination of many things. So that kind of it provides a roadmap to what you need to do. So the first week we would focus on something like writing headlines. The second week we would focus on something like writing breaking news stories, the difference between a tabloid and a broadsheet news article. And then the next week would be about writing an opinion piece, and then writing a letter, formal and informal. As we sort of got up to the finish line, we had weeks of sort of mini lessons. And I think that was probably the easiest part, was that every week was something new, but it was building on what we had done previously. Now that we know exactly what we're up against, let's put it to use. Let's finally get the first issue out. And it just so happened that the first issue aligned with my midterm exams, so I used that to my benefit, and the first issue is relatively short and I would say very academically focused, because it was also the midterm. But by the time we started writing articles in real time, our week was pretty much a cycle of the same kind of lessons on a regular basis. So Monday was the planning stage. You're creating sort of a map of what your article would look like, what questions you need to answer, so your research questions. Tuesday is the first draft. So once you've got the answers and the information, you write your draft on Tuesday. You bring your draft to school on Wednesday, and we do a peer review. So you slide your article to the left, and the next student will give you feedback on what you've written. Thursday is our final sort of editing, revising, making everything visually pleasing, so inserting pictures and making sure we want the article to look good on the paper, not just sound good. And then Friday was our reflection day. We asked the questions, what did I do right? What could I do better next time? What did I really enjoy about this piece? So Friday was just a big reflection day. And the next week it just started again. The kids chose a new topic, and at that point it became autonomous. And to be honest, I've been blessed with a group of students who are amazing. And yeah, a lot of this couldn't be done without these guys being really on the ball and self-motivated. So I gotta say thank you to them for this project. So being a journalist is a mind state. It's not so much a career path. Maybe for some it is, but I think anyone can be a journalist in their own mind. It's just a matter of being curious about the world and seeking to find information in ways that are unbiased, that are fair, and telling the stories of those who can't tell stories themselves, or maybe who don't want to tell the stories. But I think within my own classroom, I found that there were two really, really big benefits from this journalism project. Number one was that they were sort of forced to communicate with each other in ways that they probably haven't ever done before. Giving each other critical feedback, which often led to sometimes they were butting heads over what headlines sounded better, or where you should put this information in the front or in the back, or what quote would be most important here. So the amount of communication increased tenfold in my classroom simply because they were forced to do this collaboratively. And second, I think it produced a lot more empathy in the classroom, but they were motivated to talk to people who they hadn't talked to before, whether it was teachers down the hallway or students in other classes that they've never spoken to. You know, they're taking opinion polls and they're doing surveys and asking questions, and the answers are usually quite surprising. And sometimes this generates a little bit more curiosity about those students than they would have had in the first place. So all of this eventually leads to a more open mind. Like, you didn't know much about the classroom 3 doors down, and now you know their favorite hobbies after school, you know their favorite subjects in school, you know where the places they like to eat, and all of a sudden you have a deeper connection to these students. They might not generate, you know, a deep, long-lasting friendship, but at least now you have a more open mind to what other people can be like, you know, without knowing them personally. We definitely have made some major improvements to the first edition. The first most obvious change was like the formatting, the sort of the aesthetic of the newspaper. We didn't have our margins right, we didn't have our colors right, we didn't have our slogans right. So the first edition was the shortest, so it was only 4 pages. It was just 1 article per student, and we left it at that. Second edition, with some feedback from the administrators, they said, oh, we love this, but we would like to see this instead. And I said, that's a great idea, let me make those changes. So the second edition, we added some color, I think we fixed some of the formatting issues, and the next edition was 6 pages. So as you know, the issues are getting longer, but the writing within them is also getting a lot more personal to the students. So the first edition was very academic. They were writing about things that were pretty much only school issues. It was always surrounding the school. And then with the second edition, I wanted to give them a little bit more freedom with what they wanted to write. So I let them do things like book reviews or game reviews or something like that. Someone even wrote an album review, and we also had a student, Ashanti, who wrote sort of a very thought-provoking answer about an art piece that she had done a few years back. And as long as the students felt motivated to write, I thought that was enough. Like, give them the freedom to write and then see what they can produce. I didn't want to put them in a box. So the writing became a lot longer. And the third issue, I also started to include the year 7s. So the first issue was the project of the year 8s, and this was their midterm project. But I noticed that the year 7s were also quite motivated to write, so I started to allow them and ask them to write articles and contribute as well. So we started to write 1 article per week, which sounds like a lot, but again, when we have sort of this autonomous lesson going, the kids know exactly what's expected of them from Monday to Friday, it was doable. So the second edition went to 6 pages, and the third edition went to 10 pages. But I think in general, the amount of engagement made it all worth it. So the issue number 3, despite being the longest and the most arduous issue, was, I think, by far the best one. So it's just progressively getting better each time. I think number 1, it's boosted the confidence of all of my students. Like, I think perhaps this is the first time that they've had a true voice that is not just, you know, within the confines of their own mind or within the walls of their home, but their name is now out there. And it's not just about, hey, look at my writing, look at my grammar. It's look at my perspective. And that to me is invaluable. A lot of the kids feel a deep sense of pride every single time they publish another article. And so that in itself, you know, it's indescribable. The kids are gonna remember this for the rest of their lives. It's also really built up our classroom, and I think even our school as a community. I mean, you've got students in year 1 seeing their name in a paper, and this is most likely the first time that this has ever happened, or they're seeing their picture in the paper. And so overall, you've built this sense of unity, all surrounding 1 small project and 1 classroom of the school. For me, it's the confidence that has come from the paper, from publishing these issues, and the community that has come from, like, knowing that this is all part of one place. This is TIS, or this is SLS, this is Sanya. I think that for me that's everything. And I think for me, it's also, I'm quite proud of it as well. It's not just about the kids. Like, I do feel like this is sort of my project as much as it is anyone else's. I'm happy to see that it's doing so well, that it's getting positive attention. It really wasn't my idea to put this out into the entire school or for anyone outside of TIS to see this, but it's getting some more attention, and I guess that's pretty cool. The biggest thing is that the kids have an opportunity to showcase their talent.